Yes, thanks.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Leah Hines, Executive Director of the Charleston Library Conference, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, the Charleston Fast Pitch Bootcamp. We're really excited that you're all here with us today. While everyone's getting connected, I'm going to throw up a couple of quick poll questions here. We'd like you to let us know what type of attendee are you. You can select librarian, publisher, vendor, consultant, or other. And if it's other, just let us know in the chat what that might be. And then if you have, we'd like to know if you have an idea for a proposal already. Yes, definitely, maybe I'm here to learn more, or if you have a project in mind you'd like to nominate. There's a couple different options in there. So I'll give everybody a few minutes to answer those questions. You can also take a moment to introduce yourself in the attendee chat. Just let us know your name and what institution or company that you're with. And it would be great just to kind of get a quick glance at who all's here with us today. So while people are doing that, let's see here. So it looks like so far about 75% librarian, 70%, 23, 21% publisher. I'll show the results when the voting is closed. And most people are here to learn more. Most 86% say maybe I'm here to learn more. So we're glad that you're here and you're in the right place to learn more about the fast pitch competition. I'll give everybody just a few more minutes to chime in on that, and then we'll end the polling and get started with some of the presentations here. Hi, Corey. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Jean. Hi, Brian. Thanks for writing in the chat there. Let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I think the voting's slowing down here, so I'm going to end polling and share the results. So you should be able to see that. Hi, Claire. All right. So just briefly, a little bit of introduction and background about the Fast Pitch Competition. It started in 2016, and the goal of the competition is to recognize and reward innovation in academic libraries and information management. And the call for participation is open to all who are in the process of developing new, innovative, and implementable ideas to improve their academic libraries or related organizations. So since we started in 2016, we've given two $2,500 awards each year. One is given through a judge's vote, and one is given through an audience vote. These awards are generously funded by the Goodall Family Foundation. And I'd like to take a moment to pause here and give a big thank you and a shout out to Steve Goodall, who is the president and founder of the Goodall Family Foundation. And he also serves as the moderator for the competition when it's held in Charleston each year. Steve was unable to join us today, but thank you, Steve, for making all of this possible. You can see there's a timeline here for the competition. The call for proposals is open now, and the deadline for submissions is September 16th. So you still have a good bit of time left to send those proposals in. And then the rest of our presentation today will be talking more specifically about the coaching part of the process and the competition itself. All of this and more information can be found at charlestonlibraryconference.com/fastpitch. And that's also where you can find the proposal form to send in your ideas. So without any further ado, let's introduce our presenters who are here with us today. Caroline Muglia, who is the Co-Associate Dean for Collections and Head of Resource Sharing and Collection Assessment for University of Southern California Libraries. We also have Rob O'Connell, Director of Discovery, Access, and Digital Engagement at Smith College Libraries, and Devin Savage, Interim Dean at Galvin Library, Illinois Institute of Technology. So all three of those have been previous Fast Pitch winners in past years. So they're going to talk about their part of the competition where they applied, were selected as finalists, and then were in the competition itself. We also have Curtis Michelson, who is founder and principal of Minds Alert LLC, and he is our coach who helps the finalists prepare for the presentations and the competition itself. And finally, we have Jim O'Donnell, University Librarian at Arizona State University, who has been one of our judges since the competition started. So I'm really happy to have all of these people here today to tell you more about their respective roles in the competition. I'll be serving as the session moderator, and although I'll have my mic and video turned off during the presentations, I'll be there to help answer questions in the attendee chat. I'll also come back at the end to do Q&A. So if you look towards the bottom of your screen, you should see a button that says Q&A. You can submit questions there as they come to mind during the presentations, and we're going to save those till the end. We'll come back and do a panel Q&A with all of our presenters at the very end of the presentation. But please do submit those questions as they come to mind, and we'll just queue them up and go through all of those together at the end. So with that, I will turn it over to Caroline for her portion of the presentation. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
I can.
Great.
So I'm giving control to Caroline, and I'm going to mute my mic and stop my audio. So thank you very much, Caroline.
No problem. Thank you. And I'm really, really happy to be here to serve even a small part in this presentation, in the hopes that more of you will get involved in the fast pitch competition. And Leah, it made me think, because you pronounced my name correctly, that we have been working together for like the perfect amount of time, that we're not mangling each other's names. So as Leah said, I serve as the co-associate dean for collections at USC. And in 2017, I was the audience winner for Fast Pitch. My focus was called Reimagining Reference, Why Should Silicon Valley Have All the Fun? Okay, let me try to advance this. There it goes. Okay, so the goal well, let me start from the beginning, which is that the year before the Fast Pitch in 2016, I received 2 small grants from USC to pursue technology projects in the library, sort of writ large. And it was really a way to offer a fresh and new input into current library challenges. And so what I did is I walked across campus and I think I advanced too much. I walked across campus and I talked to some of the folks in the Viterbi School of Engineering, and Preetham Manjunatha is the other person in this photograph, and he and I worked together on a small research team. He was a PhD student in computer science and civil engineering. And we decided that together we would focus on answering collection assessment questions. And that was because at the time my focus at the libraries was collection assessment. And so I thought, I want to centralize the libraries on these as part of these technology projects. I don't want to get too far astray so that this serves more of the Viterbi engineering side and less of the library side, because we had a lot of opportunities in our libraries for collaboration. So we decided to focus on questions related to the use of physical materials. And that was because as a collection assessment librarian, I was identifying these sort of shadowy corners where there was a lot of use data being generated and maybe even reuse data. But there were some areas, especially in our physical collection, where I couldn't identify clear, consistent, accurate, scalable metrics to really tell a value story or a return on investment story for the administration in terms of using our budget in a sound way. So that about year and a half was really helpful in developing a proof of concept for 2 different projects that we went through together, and really offered an opportunity to showcase a technology demonstration using at its core object detection software, which we use it in a much more rudimentary way, but it's the software that's used these days in self-driving car, the work of self-driving cars. Okay, so around this time was the call for applications for the Fast Pitch. And I loved this call for applications because I hadn't seen this concept at a library conference before. And maybe some of you are on this call because you're thinking like, oh yeah, all of your tech friends usually have all the fun and you don't get to do this stuff. And that's exactly what happened. I had all of these friends who were doing these Fast Pitch competitions and these tech competitions, and I just didn't have the opportunity, but I thought the libraries could showcase so much there. And so my proposal was based on steps that were following the proof of concept and technology demonstration that I was really steeped in at that moment. And it was to build, test, iterate, and institutionalize collection assessment methods. And if I forget to say this later, I will say now that the work that I did pre-Fast Pitch and the work that I was able to continue doing once I received funding as a result of my Fast Pitch win is still happening today. So I am able to institutionalize that work. My goal was really to pitch a new method for answering an old problem. And maybe it was more of an old challenge or something that hadn't been resolved in a creative way in our libraries. So we start print reference collection at our research library. This is not like a glamorous, super innovative question, but it was something that on my desk on a daily basis, I was interrogating and I wasn't able to get good answers for. And then related to that, how do we systematically measure use? And here it was measure use in the collection assessment context, but just generally in libraries, I was curious about that question. And so that's what really drove me to apply for the Fast Pitch competition. Once, and Leah mentioned this in the introduction, but once I became a finalist, I had the opportunity to have an hour-long call with coaches, these sort of experts in the field, to strengthen my pitch submission. And it's entirely possible that this was part of the call for applications, but if it was, I don't recall it. So this was a really exciting surprise when I was able to schedule a phone call selfishly that was all about strengthening my pitch, my value statement, with these experts who were volunteering their time to really distill the value statement, to really help me cultivate the creativity that was already in my original submission, but really could have been distilled even more, and then to really help refine my talking points. I think like many of us, we had a lot of talking points, right? And I had been doing this work for a little while, and I had this entry point with the Fast Pitch competition, but they really helped to shape and even maybe reshape the pitch that I ultimately delivered on stage in 2017. They asked me questions like, why now? Why is it important for this project or this initiative to happen right now? What is the impact of this innovation? And that was a really important one, right? Not, I want to do this, but once I do this, what will be the outcome? What will be the impact and significance? And of course, and this is a question I continue to ask myself, what is the problem that I am solving? So with all of this stuff, what was I trying to do? What challenge was I trying to interrogate and ultimately solve? And those are questions that guided me actually through this entire process and continue to guide further iterations of these projects. So when I executed my pitch, I had 5 minutes on this problem statement, and I really focused on the what, the why, and the how. Again, the name of my project was Why Should Silicon Valley Have All the Fun? But it was really about smart assessment and the Internet of Things within the physical library space. And then I tried to refine it for a collection assessment standpoint, because at the time, that was the thing I cared about the most. I focused on the lack of solutions in the field for my problem, which really answered the why now and the impact question. And I won't go through these, but I touched on my project goals. So sort of what was I planning to do if I won a certain amount of money to increase my capacity for this project. And then I also tried to make the pitch fun and relatable, which was really important because it's 5 minutes and it's an audience full of people. I wanted to make sure they weren't completely bored. I wanted my colleagues, my competitors to be interested, if even minimally. And because this is a competition, it needed to be engaging to the judges. And the coaches said that over and over, that you do need to make this relatable to the judges. They need to be able to see how the $2,500 is going to best impact you and your work. So just to close, I have just a couple of lessons learned, very humbly offering them. The first was really to trust the expert advice of the coaches. Their advice about my pitch and my delivery were really spot on. Ooh. And I don't think I would have, sorry, I think I'm accidentally advancing. Hold on. Oh my goodness. I don't think I would have proposed the project in the pitch in the same way had it not been for those coaches. The second was to really tell the story that demonstrates the need to fund this particular innovation and not necessarily the innovation of my competitors, but just a whole nother type of thing. Really telling that story, putting forth that narrative for the need for this particular thing was vital. And I'm very happy that I did so and probably could have done an even better job in retrospect. I wanted to just note that it is okay if your innovation isn't too tech heavy or too sort of sexy and glamorous and glossy. A lot of fast pitch competitions outside of the library world are written to be this sort of glossy new innovation, but innovation for me was really helping to solve a challenge, and this gets to that fourth point, challenge that I was facing in that moment, something that I could directly return to the libraries and start implementing and seeing changes. And that was the most important thing. So my innovation was part of the workflow, was part of this question that I was continually asking and not getting an answer that made me feel good. So if you are still on the fence about submitting an application for Fast Pitch, I will leave you with that, which is think about the problem that you're facing and something that would benefit your institution or even the field of library and information science. That could be the innovation that we all really need to further our work. So anyway, thank you, and I will pass it on to Rob.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And now we're going with Rob O'Connell, who was our 2018 audience winner, and he is going to tell us about his experience with the competition. So thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Leah. So this was a really interesting competition for us. We build a number of different tools in-house. We're a very small liberal arts college, but we decided that this would be an opportunity to sort of get our products out in front of other people to see how they responded to them. So the Smith inventory system was really built because we are tearing down our building right now and had to move 1.2 million items from our main campus building to our high density storage facility. Now, normally when you do this, there are a couple of software platforms on the market that they meet the needs of high density storage, but they're very old school. A lot of them are in command line or are very, very expensive. So we thought, why not just write our own product and see if we can handle the collection being moved out of our building into this new facility. So that's really what this project was about, was coming up with something that would not only benefit us, but would sort of shift around the market a little bit and provide some level of open source product that could benefit many institutions from large to very small. So when we originally pitched this product, we actually were not selected for the Fast Pitch competition. It wasn't until probably a couple weeks before Charleston that we were notified that another institution had dropped out of the competition. And Leah was wondering whether we would be interested in actually participating. So the turnaround time for us was incredibly fast. We didn't have a lot of lead up time. There weren't slides created. I had just assumed that this presentation wasn't actually going to happen. So what I'll say to you is that if you create a presentation and it's not selected, hold out hope that it might actually happen, because you may actually get in the end. So when we were notified, I had a really quick session turnaround time with the coaches, which was incredibly valuable. I would say the most valuable piece about that meeting was that I was able to sort of rethink how we would use any winnings to further promote this product. Originally, when we designed the presentation, it focused a lot on bug fixing and additional development. And while that's great and necessary, it doesn't always resonate with the judges. And I would say that it was more important to talk about the marketing aspect around this product and how we could deliver it to institutions both large and small, and how it would benefit them in the end. I think we had a really good handle on how this product could actually help institutions, but the marketing piece was something that really the coaches helped us flesh out and improve in the slide deck. During the presentation, a couple of things that I can give advice on is that really make sure that you practice giving the the presentation. You have 5 minutes, and it really needs to flow pretty nicely between your slides. It really needs to seem like you know this presentation inside and out. And it's not, I shouldn't say it's really a presentation, it's really geared more towards you're trying to sell something. So I had been doing a lot of work at home with pitching products with my wife, so I had some idea of how to sell a product to people who were offering a lot of money up. So this was an extension from that. I would also say that it doesn't hurt to type out your entire pitch and use some dynamic reading with it. It's a little intimidating when you're up there in front of panelists and judges and an audience. So having that written out can give you a sort of fallback to make sure that you continue the flow of your discussion. I also made sure that mine was in very large font because I knew I actually watched Caroline's beforehand and it looked very dark, and I wanted to make sure that I could read, if necessary, what was on my page. And because you're trying to sell something, whether something to the audience or to the judges, I think it's really important to know your product inside and out. So you're going to get asked questions from the judges that can be challenging, can be really a little bit confusing when you're first asked that, because often, I know for me, I was asked to sell it to the judges. You know, why should I do this? Why should I move away from our current high density storage software? So being prepared for that is really really important when you're up there. I'd like to talk a little bit about the current status of our product, because after we won, we really started rethinking what this product could be in the future. We're using it and expanding it beyond just Smith College and implementing it at the 5 college level. So there are universities that are using this, there are small institutions that are using this, but we found that the distribution model of this was not going to work for us. So we are reworking this to be more web-based, to provide access to a number of different users on a number of different platforms, which is one of our goals pitching this product. And that money is really helping us think through how we can expand our discussions outside of the 5 colleges and get this product into institutions that could really benefit from it, especially because many places need to have both large and small moves and could use this product in a number of different ways. So I think I'd like to end there with just making sure that, you know, if you're selected for a fast pitch, that you really practice your pitch, you make sure that you, particularly in front of other people, that you make sure that you think through questions that judges might ask you about this, that you have something to fall back on, something to read if necessary, dynamically, and really be prepared to sell this product to both the audience and to the judges. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rob. That was great. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Devin Savage, who is the Judges Award winner from last year. And Devin, let's see here. I will give you the slides. Take it away, Devin. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so Devin, I'm the interim dean currently at the Galvin Library at Illinois Institute of Technology, sometimes known as Illinois Tech or IIT. I'm here to talk about, you know, my experience with this, with the Charleston Fast Pitch Competition. And I initially saw the announcement last summer, the call for proposals, and I sent it on to I sent it on to a colleague of mine. We had a couple things we've been working on. I thought were innovative. I thought it'd be great to share those innovations and get some feedback on them. And so I sent it on to Max, my colleague, and said, why don't you take a look at this, see if there's something that, if there's one of the things we've been talking about that we should submit. He took a look and he said that he thought that this application he'd been working on, Fetch Counter, which I won't talk too much about, but it's a way of pulling counter reports much more easily for electronic resource librarians to process and make cost usage estimates and all that sort of thing. And he thought that was probably what was going to be the best submission. But when he looked at the application, it was through a Google form, and he said it was so easy, I just filed it. And I said, great, we'll support it. And then, we were accepted, which was fantastic. We started planning on Max going, but there's always challenges. So one of them was that with about 6 weeks out from the competition itself, Max and his wife had this unique opportunity to move to New York City. The timeline was so tight that he couldn't go to Charleston. So in those intervening weeks, he and I talked and agreed that I would go and represent IIT at this competition. And I had to check with Leah and Charleston and make sure that I could go. It turned out the only day I could be there was actually the day of the competition. But it all worked out. There was a little bit of running around with the tax exempt form that we had to file on our end, nothing to do with Charleston. But all those challenges, we worked through them. But it wasn't really aggressive timeline. It was less than a month. By the time we figured out that I could go, I had to coordinate for logistics, receive the training and coaching, and I think between the sort of logistical meetings and the meetings with Curtis and others for the coaching, I think all in all, there was 3 sessions I had to schedule. I also had to get really familiar with an application. As Rob, talked about, you want to be very familiar with whatever it is that you're trying to pitch, because you're going to get questions. You're going to get really good questions. And it was an application I didn't build. I didn't regularly use. I did use. I helped test. I helped consult on creating and promoting it, but it wasn't my sole thing. So I had to really work with it, and I had to coordinate remotely with Max to craft the appropriate messaging about what are the possibilities of this. What's fair to say that this could grow into, or we could do with this. And that at times is a little challenging because he and I both had, there were times he was walking home in New York City and on the phone with me, and as I'm on the train home, as it were, kind of trying to check on the details of this. But the coaching sessions were really, really valuable. And I think, so many of us, especially in academic libraries, we really want to give the full story of, our innovation or our product or our idea. And we want to put it in the best possible light. And that's not really what you're doing in this session. And I think both Rob and Caroline alluded to this, that you have to kind of discreetly break down the pieces, since you only have 5 minutes, of what you need to address, what's going to be relevant for the audience that you're presenting to. And so you really have to, boil things down. And at the same time, you have to step back and reflect on how your project will resonate with those audiences, both in its usefulness, how it fits in to the greater ecosystem, but also how that relatively small amount of money, and $2,500 or $5,000 sounds like a lot when compared to your paycheck. But in terms of launching an innovation, that money can go really, really quickly. So figuring out something that small amount of money can do that will concretely advance your innovation is something you really want to take a step back and think about, and then before you pitch it. And of course, the pitch itself is a challenge. I will say that, I will echo the need for practice and the challenge of it being 5 minutes. I think I've already talked longer than 5 minutes in this presentation now. So that's how quickly it goes. But But one thing I've found when I've done lightning rounds is you can get kind of rushed by the need to get through the content, the amount of time that you have. So getting control of, getting comfortable with material, getting a mastery of the material and the concepts, but also getting, mastery of your breathing, making sure you sound like you're in control of your own presentation is really important. And I found it really helpful to practice for the questions, to think about, okay, I don't normally talk to publishers. I, sometimes talk to, library administrators or senior administrators, but, often I'm, I'm not, bouncing ideas off of publishers a lot of times. And so those questions are going to be very different. And so you want to give yourself some options for having, prepared answers, or making sure there are things that you want to be able to respond to. And I would really, really emphasize, share and celebrate your success. If you're lucky enough to win, the idea that your library is involved in innovation, winning a national competition award, bringing money in for projects, those are all things that senior administrators love. So please, make sure that you let people know that you were successful, because it is really cool. I will say, one of the great things about this, and all kinds of credit goes to Max for inventing and conceiving of this application, but it was really great to be able to take this thing that we've been talking about for a while and thinking that, we think it's really cool. We think it's a really neat thing that can help other people. And then going to a competition like this and bouncing it off like a lot of people and the judges, and then, getting that sort of official recognition that, yeah, that is a neat thing. We'd like to see more of it. So that was really a pleasure. And yeah, as Carolyn mentioned earlier, there's just not this many opportunities to refine and be coached about pitching something, about trying to sell something in academic libraries. So it's a unique opportunity that you really do want to take advantage of if you can. Yeah, and of course, if you have any sort of spirit the staircase questions after this, please do feel free to email me. I'll be happy to share any more of my experience I can. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Devin. And let's see here. I'll turn it over to Curtis for his portion. Curtis is our coach extraordinaire for the finalists coming through the competition. So take it away, Curtis.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'm one of the coaches. You'll have at least two to work with. It's kind of a twofer. You get a 2-for-1 deal. And you'll probably have a couple sessions with us if you're one of the finalists. So it's a real pleasure to do this. I work a lot with corporate America, and this is such a great, fun change of pace. I love working with libraries and higher ed when I get the chance to. I kind of have a foot in both worlds, sort of corporate America and higher ed. And, it's, as a volunteer, it's just a wonderful kind of give back, and I just enjoy it. So thank you. It's a real delight to work with you guys. So with that, what I can offer today is a couple tips from the coaching perspective. Let me see if I get my mouse to go here. There we go. So just from where my coaches had a couple things that I can share with you. And I think a lot of these have been touched on by Rob and Caroline and Devin well already, but maybe I can enhance and add a couple more. So I'm going to kind of chunk it into three categories. So my trinity today is clarity. So telling that clear story, opportunity, finding that unique opportunity, and how to tell it with impact and make sure that there's some impact connected to it. All right. So those are the 3 areas I want to look into and share with you. So I've always loved this quote. Believe it's attributed correctly to Pascal. It's hard, as all 3 just said, to make that story that's so complex and there's so many moving parts and you want to tell every bit of it into something so short, and it takes some time to boil that down. So that is really, truly the art of pitching. And you really, as they said, have 5 minutes. And you're really going to have 5 to 6 slides. You know, you could have 7 or 8, but you're going to cut down, you know, the time on each. So it's got to move at a pretty quick clip. You really got to state that proposal problem clearly. And that's the part that Caroline talked about too, the problem and the outcome. Very important to hit that. It may even be the greater portion of your pitch to really set that in the judge's mind and the audience mind, what problem you're solving for. Then hit that solution or that innovation that you're working on and you need the support of the grant, and then say exactly how you're going to use the grant. So this is what you heard already from the 3 that preceded me. And ask for it, right? Make the ask. Look those judges right in the eye and say, if we win these funds, this is what we can do, right? And confidently ask for that money. How often do librarians get to do this, right? Go and make a pitch. And I totally agree with Caroline. This Silicon Valley shouldn't have all the fun. I really think libraries are hotbeds for innovation. I'm going to just get on a side soapbox here for a second. And Leah, you know how much I care and love this, and we'll be doing another different session in Charleston around innovation in libraries, a pre-conf. But I do think libraries are so perfectly positioned for innovation. You sit in the center like a hub of the university. You kind of are objective. You can get data from all sides. I mean, you sit on mountains of data and metadata. I mean, it's technology paradise in some ways. So I think you guys just have so much to offer, and it's so fun to bring innovation and celebrate it in the library. And at the end of your pitch, close it and put how you can be reached. All right. I think this is probably the most important thing. Make sure you package it with some visuals. I love this book, Back of the Napkin. I commend it to a lot of my corporate clients as well as higher ed. One of many stories in there is how Southwest Airlines was born on the back of a cocktail napkin. Hence the title of the book. You know, that airline started with Herb Kelleher drawing a triangle on a map, on a little napkin. And it was like 3 cities, you know, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, something like that. And it was such a radically crazy idea. No airline would have thought of moving off a hub and spokes model and just saying, we're only going to fly these 3 flights and we're going to turn around the planes really fast. But that was a very compelling storytelling tool. And from that one napkin drawing, a whole airline was born. Great ideas, all your great ideas can start very simply. Don't be an artist for any of this. In fact, don't be intimidated by, you know, Photoshop or needing any sexy graphics for your presentation. Just simply telling the story visually as well as with some text is really, really powerful. So that clarity of your storytelling. I want to also talk about opportunity. It's the next one. There we go. And again, I'll allude to something Caroline said about really thinking about outcomes, aligning to those outcomes, what happens after the solution, right? What is this really about? And David White is a poet I love a lot. And, you know, it takes a different kind of attention to see the problem. We focus on solutions. It's easy, right? Easy to measure, easy to get our handle around some kind of technology and talk about it in those terms. Much harder to look at something from the outside, from multiple perspectives, see it. It takes a different kind of attention. And that's the piece that really will make the difference in your presentation. And your opportunity could be a variety of different things. I mean, clearly there's a lot of opportunity to work around new data, metadata opportunities, maybe data visualization. We had someone last year who did a VR, very immersive application, which was very cool. But you also have these opportunities like rethinking. I believe Caroline's was called reimagining reference, right? So taking those existing workflows and making them better. What can we do that's new and different, right? But leverage some interesting technology. So you can kind of combining those two together, right? Leverage a cool technology. And this is where the partnerships happen. Like she found the engineer from the other side of the campus. That's so powerful to work with an engineer on something like that, to reimagine or rethink a workflow. And it could be even, I would love to see someone submit for a white paper, some kind of critical research. If you look at the Fast Pitch website, they encourage you to think outside just tech. Maybe that's a great use of funds. If you have a really interesting problem, a very complex, maybe urgent problem, if you want to get a sense of those, just pick up any issue of the Chronicle of Higher Ed or pick up your latest issue of Against the Grain And you'll find them, right? Whether it's, you know, town and gown opportunities, that's very powerful and very contemporary. You know, I'm just looking at the latest issue Against the Grain, how libraries can lead, an introduction to affordable learning, right? All about OER. All these things are timely and important. So these are the different important needles we can move. So I'll just invite you to think wider about your submission, okay, if you're thinking about submitting this year. Lots of different things you can submit for. And last thing I want to talk about is impact, the whoa, okay? This quote came from a project, actually a fun one that we did. It was a Mellon-funded project in about 3 years ago, working with some publishers, university publishers, and we were looking for an interesting discovery solution around discovering this potential corpus of books that could be digitized, et cetera. And we were really not finding the solution or the opportunity, but there was a moment where I think it was someone from JSTOR or Project Muse, we got on the phone and we pitched a different idea and they said, whoa, that has legs, right? And you're looking for that moment when someone outside your library said, whoa, that's important. Then you know you're onto something, okay? And it's that now. Why do we need it now? Or even yesterday? What is the burning platform this is standing on? What is it about? And you know, if you want some inspiration, look at any Simon Sinek video. Love this guy. It always starts with why, right? You can probe around that. Go into the 5 whys, the why behind the why. So I would encourage you to look at that. And I guess really just think about who cares. At the end of the day, whether you get a testimonials from inside your campus or outside it, it matters, right? That's what says you're on the right track, especially if you have a measure of some commitment. In Caroline's case, she had the commitment of the engineer, right? That was going to work with her on that project. That says a lot. Someone offering space, a dean offering to pilot, students signing up to intern and test, whatever it is, that matters too to judges. It says that, you know, this has some traction. There's more people that care about it and want to see it happen. So those are some of the tips I would offer, and I'll turn it back to you, Leah.
Thank you very much, Curtis. And with that, let's see here. We're going to go with the final presentation from Jim O'Donnell, who is our competition judge. He has served with each competition that we've had since 2016. We really appreciate his input and insight here. So take it away, Jim.
Okay, Leah, thank you. And howdy, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might happen to be. I'm called into this to give you a bit of the judge's perspective. And I threw up this picture to reassure you, we don't look anything like that. Bear that in mind, please. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to be involved in this for 3 years. And I think our colleagues have already given you some idea of the pleasure. It's fun to hear about new ideas, support those ideas. It's also fun to help people think through their idea one more step and find the further opportunity to take it bigger and make it better. Rob's presentation, particularly just now, reminded me how that went. And it was fun to see Caroline and Rob and Devin talk about their projects again, because it was fun to remember our support for them. So you're going to come in, if you're successful and get to be a finalist, and you're going to be doing that presentation that Curtis just talked about. And while you're up there on the stage, you're going to be sneaking peeks over in the direction of the judges or paying attention to us during the Q&A. And you're going to be squinting a little bit, trying to figure out what it says in those little cartoon thought bubbles that are over all of our heads. So I'm going to give you a free sneak preview, and I want to keep it simple. There's really only 2 main categories. First one is, and I have to read this out loud, you can't just read this slide off the screen, is, did it make me say, not gosh, but gosh, or huh, or cool, or maybe the best of all, yes, something like that. I want to listen to your proposal, your idea, and I want to think, now that's a good idea. The smartness has been involved here. They've identified something that's a problem, that's an opportunity, and they've measured a way they can act appropriately to get at that in a way that make all the people involved and the people who are affected look at each other and say, yeah, okay, that was good. I want to emphasize 2 things about this right now, though. One of which is that it doesn't have to be the grand solution to the grand problem of the universe. In fact, if you come in and try to give us a 7-year proposal for reinventing librarianship as we know it, what I'm sorry to say I have to refer to as my bullshit detector is likely to go off and ring loudly in my ears. Looking for something that's got congruence between what the problem is and what the solution. Always tell my students when they're writing papers, they can't possibly choose a paper topic too small. I want to see how well they do it. I want to see what difference they can make by doing it really well, not get in over their heads. Second thing I will just say is that presentations we've had that have been successful have come at every stage in the life cycle of the idea. From the gleam in the eye to the, here's how much we've done on it so far, and if we can just do this bit more, it will be successful. That's not really relevant. It's the quality of the idea and inevitably the clarity and coherence with which you can express it that's going to impress us the most. So then my next question is, so would I hire this person? Would I bring this team on board in my organization? That's a proxy for saying, do I trust them to take this good idea and make something actually happen out of it? I remember meeting many years ago a Maryknoll nun in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. This was in the 1990s. Very struggling times there. And she was working with the Royal University of Phnom Penh. And we said, so Sister Louise, what's your job title here, please? And she sighed and said, oh, I think it's something like Associate Rector in charge of making something actually happen once in a while. We want people who are going to make something happen, and maybe not just once in a while. So I use these 3 categories on screen that I borrowed from a search firm I've worked with success for many years, for the characteristics that I go looking for and what's in my thought bubble. Hunger, speed, and weight. Hunger. Is this somebody? Is this a team? If you tell me about your team, that really wants to do this, that really believes in this. You're not just phoning this in, are you? You're just not going through the motions, but you see the difference you're going to make and you want to make this difference. You've maybe even made a little nuisance of yourself to your bosses by nudging them 2 or 3 more times than absolutely necessary about how this would be a cool thing to do. I want to know that you really want it. Speed. I want to know that you're going to make something happen once in a while, that you've got your act together, you know what step 1, 2, and 3 are, you're ready to charge ahead, and we're going to know soon enough that you've been successful. And weight. Looking for impact, looking for the way you do what you do, and it really does make a difference. And that's where I say it's sort of pounds per square foot. It's not pounds. If it's a big idea, it better make a lot of impact. If it's a little idea, it's got to make impact appropriate to the project. But that really comes around to being a final vote on the project itself. If you do this well, if you make it happen, if you communicate it well, is it going to be a success where people say, yeah, I'm glad they did that. It's made a difference in our neighborhood. Now, I'm speaking for myself here. I'm an academic turned librarian, been hanging out with librarians for decades. My colleagues on the judging panel are usually publishers, people with a little more experience in that Shark Tank fast pitch kind of world. They may have slightly different perspectives. But last thing I want to emphasize is that if the judges get it completely wrong, you've got another shot, because we also vote in the audience at Charleston, the big crowd at Charleston with clickers. And we expect them to express their opinion. I think it's true, Leah can check me, that in each of the 3 years we've done this, the audience and the judges have come down with two different winners. And in each case, I know the judges have looked and said, well, yeah, right, sure. Those folks were great too. You're going to be in competition. If you answer all my questions well, we're still going to be looking at other folks. So give it your best shot. Know that however many finalists we've got, you've got 2 chances to win. And know, I hope, that it's also something that's worth doing even for its own sake. Even if you're not lucky enough to win at the end, the intellectual engagement is valuable, And I think also you should be able to go back to your employers and colleagues and say, okay, we had a success. We got there. They thought we were great. It was a tough competition. Maybe next year, something like that. It's been a lot of fun for me. I think it's been a lot of fun for the participants, and I'm happy that the folks on the call today have reassured that. And it would be really great to see some of you in Charleston and let you squint at the thought bubbles over our heads. Thanks much. Leah, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm going to ask all of our panelists to come back at this point so we can do a short Q&A session here. We have a couple of questions that have already been submitted, and I would invite attendees to go ahead and use that. You can either use the Q&A button to type in a question, or you can use the attendee chat at this point, and we'll go through, let's see here. So all of our panelists, let's see, here's a question. In the case of a winning idea, how are the awards made? To the university or to the individuals? So in that case, the awards are made to the university itself. It's a rule of the Goodall Family Foundation that the foundation funds have to go to a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So that is one thing, you know, on the poll question as you came in today, we asked if you had an idea, but you were not affiliated with a 501c3. We're working on some ways to recognize innovation in different ways, but for now, the funds have to be made out to the university or a 501c3. Let's see here, another question. It seems all of these projects presented were further along than new ideas. Can brand new projects without high fidelity prototypes get funded? Would our panelists like to address that one?
Leah, I had seen that before I spoke, and that's one reason I said what I said. Yes,
Gotcha.
absolutely. Sure, yeah. Make me smile, make me wow, and make me think you've got a good plan, and we'll pay serious attention to you.
Right, yeah.
Can I also quickly answer that? Just, I think that's a really smart question. In 2017, the Judges Award went to a group that was doing exactly that. They had a really great idea, and there was a very practical and immediate application, and it was totally new. So it wasn't like it was already in progress and then they were asking for funding to further develop. They were developing from the ground, and that won the Judges Award. So there is, Jim is right. they do award to people who have brand new ideas.
Right. Another question was, can we learn more about the innovations? I would love to know more. So yes, this session is being recorded, and we're going to have slides up on the Charleston Conference website with, it'll have contact information for the previous winners, the judges, and so you can reach out and learn more about the individual projects. I hope I answered that question correctly. Cindy, if you want to let me know if you have any follow-up to that, that would be great. But yeah, definitely reach out to previous winners, to the judges, and to the coach to find out more information.
Hey, since that hit my favorite word again, innovation, could we mention, can I pitch hacking the library?
Absolutely.
Okay. I know these are two separate things, just so we don't confuse the issue. But at Charleston this year, we'll have a fun opportunity. And Caroline, I think we pulled her into it because we said she's got the right stuff, and we wanted to have her as a coach with that. But we're going to allow anyone to submit something that is usually very early stage. We'll help them shape it. So it's something that you could come to Charleston, take a very early stage idea, get some coaching from folks like myself or Caroline and others, and then maybe you'd be ready to submit Fast Pitch next year in 2020. And we'll help you start your pitching early. So hacking the library, we're calling it hacking for good. So just really teaching the innovation skills. It'll be a half-day pre-conf workshop where they learn how to build up an innovation effort. So.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up. And more information about that is on the conference registration page, and we've got a schedule of pre-conferences where you can find a description and speakers for that session. So that's a really good point. So if you have a germ of an idea that you're not quite sure if it fits with Fast Pitch, you can come to the hacking session and build more on that and get feedback from the group there. Are there any other questions from the audience either in the attendee chat, you can send them that way, or through the Q&A button. Or do any of our panelists have questions for one another? If there's anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about.
I love, Jim, your presentation, and now I'm going to forever be seeing thought bubbles above your head.
All right. Well, if there are no further questions here, then I will wrap things up. If you do have questions after the session, if something comes to mind that you didn't think to ask now, you can email me. My email's there, leah@charlestonlibraryconference.com. And then there's more information, and the proposal form itself is at charlestonlibraryconference.com/fastpitch. So thank you very much for being here today. I hope we see proposals from all of you. Reach out, ask questions, and we'll talk with you soon, I hope. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.